Okay, welcome everyone to episode 5 of How to Do Psychedelics. My guest today is David Rosenthal. David is the visionary and founder of Plant Medicine Portal. His journey with the medicine started in 2015. Having been witness to and on the receiving end of unethical practices and facilitation in the medicine space, he has made it his mission to create a portal and community that honors these medicines and holds those accountable to their facilitation and integration. David, thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to learn more about this project, this community, this portal. And, let's just start by what inspired you to offer this as your work in the world right now?
First of all, I just would like to say thank you so much for this opportunity to be on a podcast with you and to share this vision and this kind of, I feel like, my legacy, here in this realm. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk about this. So really the vision and really what is starting Plant Medicine Portal is creating something for my own need. I think that when we have a challenge and something gets birthed as a result of that challenge, it just comes from the heart and from a good space. And so back in 2015, when I came onto this, when the path found me, the plant medicine path, my first experience with it was really profound and life-changing, and felt like I just kind of wanted to keep seeing what this path had to unfold for me. And as the years went by and the ceremonies kept coming up, I was just starting to notice just some things that I felt were missing from these spaces. And I would say probably about 2 to 3 years ago, I had my first very challenging experience with this medicine. And
What medicine exactly?
So it was ayahuasca. And if I had done a little bit more research around the person that was facilitating this medicine, it would have stopped me from going into that ceremony. And so I'm glad that I didn't, because it's as a result of that was the beginning of kind of the birthing of what's coming out right now. And it was a facilitator that should not have been facilitating medicine, a facilitator that was on his cell phone during ceremony.
I've seen that.
While we're, heavily in the shit, like this guy's like tuned out and like on his phone, and I'm like, that just shocked me, to see that in that space. And really just wasn't there to support us. He was just kind of in his own world. And so that was kind of my first experience. And then the second one was a couple of years ago, prior to, I had planned a trip to go to Lake Atitlan down in Guatemala for a few weeks. And it was definitely going to be some time for me to explore some medicine outside of the country. It was really kind of like my first time going to pray with the medicine outside of the country. I had always done it in the mountains here of North Carolina. That has kind of been my initiation with this medicine. And I was invited the day before to do a ceremony in Miami. And I was like, wow, what a great way to start my Guatemalan trip off. This was, again, Aya. It was somebody from the Hunikuin who was facilitating, and it was going to be my first time praying with, somebody from that lineage and that tribe. And it was a very, very challenging night. And the ceremony ended at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we needed to be off the land because it was somebody's family with kids, and like we all had to kind of like move off the land. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, still on the medicine, like I'm on my phone getting an Uber.
This is in Miami.
Yeah, because there was nobody in that ceremony that was heading in the direction that I needed to go. This was like up in Hollywood, Florida, which was about 40 minutes from where I needed to be, like kind of in downtown Miami, where I was staying for the night before I would go on my journey to Guatemala. And, like leaving like standing out in front of the house, still on the medicine, waiting for an Uber to pick me up, and then getting in the Uber and being dropped off on the wrong street because the guy couldn't find the place. And I'm with my luggage at 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to figure shit out. And, finally finding the space of where I was staying. And also too, like something I really didn't appreciate was that they were talking about the next ceremony before the ceremony that we were currently in was even finished. And it was like just this resonance that wasn't working for me. Like, let's stay focused on the group that's here, And so there was just another instance with this medicine where I was like, wow, this is not resonating with me. And so I left that container. And when I tell you for like 4 hours, like my face was in the dirt purging. And
After you left?
no, like during the ceremony, like there was a lot of lessons that I got from that ceremony, which was one, that she works very differently in every ceremony, and like give her time, And so I had drank the first cup and I wasn't feeling anything. And instead of just going with that flow and just letting it flow, when the call came, is anybody not feeling it? Do you want to come up for a second cup? And I went up for the second cup, and that was, it became very, very challenging after that point. And a lot of very, very heavy purging for me, very heavy. Like I was concerned for my life. Like the purging was that hard and that violent. And so like knowing that that's how I was in that space, and then for the facilitating group to be okay with me getting in an Uber at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then to have zero follow through. Like, did you make it where you needed to get? Do you need any support? So like to not have any of that, I'm like, what is going on in this space? It's like the wild, wild west right now, And so then to leave that ceremony, to get on a plane to fly to Guatemala and to land at the lake and to go to this place called the Mystical Yoga Farm, which I was going to be there for a couple of days. It just couldn't have been any more perfect of a place for me to land, for me to truly integrate the experience from the night before in a place where I really felt held and nourished. And I was like, wow, what a contrast, right? So it's like, okay, so there are people out there that are really holding the space and doing it a good way. And I ended up doing about halfway through my trip, I ended up doing a Wachuma ceremony on their property. And it was about as close to perfection of a ceremony that I've ever been a part of. And it was like, wow, to go from something so out of integrity to something so in integrity. It's like, these are the types of spaces and these are the type of people that I want to support and find and create something to like bring that all together. And so in that roundabout way, that's kind of how Plant Medicine Portal started birthing in my mind. And so about a year and a half ago, this seed was being planted of like, I want to create something. And at the time, I'm creating it for myself. It's like, I want to know who are the people out there that are walking in integrity? Who are the people out there that are going to reach out to me after a ceremony and see if I need anything? Like, my experience has been with this medicine is that it's all been the same. It's like, I'm on an email list when a shaman is going to come to town, and I sign up. And then a week before the ceremony, I receive an email that tells me about the dieta and what I'm supposed to eat and do and that sort of thing. And I sit and I pray with the medicine. And then the next morning, there's a 1-hour integration circle, which is, I don't think is an integration circle. It's a sharing circle.
Yeah.
And then you leave that space and you leave that community of people and you go back to your life. And there's like no follow through. Like, do you need any support? Do you need any help? How are you feeling? Where are you at right now? My experience has been that I haven't received any of that. And as I continue to have these calls around this medicine with people all over the world, I'm hearing that story over and over again. Wow, yeah, I received medicine from somebody that shouldn't have been facilitating it. Wow, I didn't have any support afterwards. And so that's really where the whole birthing of this portal began, is for my own good of creating something that I need and that I want, and then wanting to share that out there in the world.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you, your first few experiences, you had one stateside in the North Carolina area, but you didn't feel supported because this shaman or facilitator was literally on their phone while you're going through a life-changing process. And then the next one you had, again, stateside in Miami, you had a powerful experience purging your face off for 4 hours in the dirt and then asked to leave at 3 a.m. or so in the morning. And they were also promoting their next circle. So completely absconding and doing away with any sort of integration and trying to enroll you in the next thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, you made your way to Guatemala, the mystical yoga farm. And that gave you experience of like night and day, like, oh, this feels safe. This feels like what I was missing. And in the beginning, you're like, well, like you said, like, what's going on? We don't know what's missing in the beginning when it's our first few times. We're like, this doesn't feel good. And maybe part of us is like, well, maybe this is how it goes. But then another part of you is like, something's missing here. And in learning what was missing, and I'm sure along the way you've learned about more things that have been missing to be in integrity, this is what inspired you to create the plant medicine portal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. And also, too, I'd like to say is that, I have done ceremony here that I definitely felt supported and nourished during ceremony, but still nothing after ceremony. Like after we've left the container, I haven't, there's been no contact afterwards. So I have had some ceremonies with some people that facilitated a beautiful ceremony, but it was still missing that piece of like, where's the nourishment afterwards, after I leave the container,
Yeah, where's the community?
where is the community? And so that's really what the portal is all about, is so the name is Plant Medicine Portal, your plant medicine toolbox. And we are providing tools and resources to safely guide people on this journey with 2 cornerstones of the project. The first one being what we are creating, which is called the Plant Medicine Portal Seal of Integrity. So when I was growing up, there was this thing that was called the Good Housekeeping Seal. And basically what the Good Housekeeping Seal was is that when you would go and buy a product or you would go and research a company, if it had this seal, the Good Housekeeping Seal, you knew that there was some sort of vetting around it, that it's a good product, it's a safe product, it's a good company, it's a, and so I wanted to create something like that in the plant medicine space. And so it's the seal of integrity. And the seal of integrity has 40 requirements in 7 key areas. And it is pretty ironclad that if you want to be in service to this portal, to this community, to this, what somebody had said on a call with me yesterday that I absolutely love, this village, like
Yeah.
this village that we're going to be building here, because in the village, everybody's growing up together, everybody's around each other. And when somebody is out of alignment, you have the village there to help support them. And that's what I want to create with the portal, this village and community of people that are there, that are coming together to support each other. So through this vetting process, which will apply to facilitators, integrators, retreat centers, businesses, sound facilitators, body workers. So, in order to be in service to this village and this community, you've got to go through a very, very extensive vetting process. And then once you're
Because
vetted,
you're building a village.
yeah, because we're building a village. And so once you're vetted, there is no guarantee that you are going to keep that seal, which I think is also very important, because as somebody applies to be vetted with us and they go through that process, they can answer these questions and tell us everything that we want to hear. And that's like, oh, okay, great. They sound good. Let's bring them on board. Let's give them a seal. But I don't know how they're going to be a month from now, 2 months from now. And so in order to keep the seal, we have a couple of councils to regulate that. So one of them is called the Council of Guides. And the Council of Guides is run by a very dear friend of mine and going to be partner on this portal, named Matteo, where definitely if you're a facilitator, retreat center, that sort of thing, you have to come into a monthly gathering of wisdom keepers and facilitators of all the different medicines. So it's a very diverse group of people. And we just want to have a conversation and feel into where you're at. Because it's my belief that nobody needs integrating more than the facilitator. Because the facilitator is having to hold that space for so many people that, there's a saying, the healers need healing too. And so we want to provide a space for these people to come into around a council to where we can make a determination as a group. Are you in a space right now to be facilitating another ceremony through our village? Because if you're not, and that's the determination that the entire council comes to, then we want to welcome you in and work with us so that we can get you in the space to where you can be back in service to our community and to this village, and where the people that are coming through the portal feel safe and they feel nourished. What we're really trying to do here is we're trying to build trust in a space where it needs it, like, desperately. Not only trust, not only integrity, but accountability to these medicines and to the people that you're serving them to.
Right. This idea of supervision, counseling, mentorship. And I really appreciate that you presence this notion of the village. This is sort of the archetype, the concept that all of my beliefs keep going back to. It's like the model of integrity. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Why is it that this idea of a village seems to encapsulate everything that we need to embody in order to do this work safely? Can you speak a bit to that?
For me, like intuitively, it just, where these medicines are coming from, like where, they're coming out of the jungle, they're coming out of these villages, they're coming out of these spaces. And now they're coming to, outside of that space where there isn't that kind of cohesion. And so it's really wanting to go back to the roots of where these medicines are coming from, and really wanting to tap back into that indigenous wisdom, and to create these villages and communities outside of that space.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's something about the village dynamic that holds all of the principles and qualities that we need in order to do this work well.
Yeah.
And I think about how it's well known that these tribes, these villages of people who hold the wisdom and the history of these plants and how to hold them and serve them, they don't have a word for integration. They don't have a word for trauma. And it's largely because, well, A, they're integrated people. They're a homogeneous unit, and they exist within sizes that allow for that, like Dunbar's number, somewhere around 150. They have their chief, their medicine man, their medicine woman, their seers, their oracle. And these people know what's going on in the village unit. And so before they gather to do this work, there's already a general understanding of what's happening. And they do all their healing collectively in a group. They move the trauma as a single organism.
Yeah.
And they have this deep relationship with the plant, with nature, with spirit, with whatever they consider to be God. And so if you look at that and how that works, and then you look at what Westerners are attempting to do, well, we are largely coming from a detribalized place. We do not live in villages. We are attempting that. And any way to bring people close and keep them together, like we mentioned earlier, where's the community afterwards? That really is the key in the end, keeping people connected, offering some sort of ongoing space to continue to learn and be with each other. It's not about this drive-by shamanism, because it doesn't work that way, because the real medicine is connection and community. And so there is a large gap in the space to fill. We're not going to become villages anytime soon. And so if we're hoping to offer these medicines, we also need to be a yes to building everything around that offering that's necessary, that has existed for time immemorial, and find a way to integrate the ancient practices and traditions with these medicines with a common modernized understanding of our unique Western pathology, because that's something the indigenous don't quite understand. We can't also just walk into their space and imagine they're going to be able to hold us the way that we need it. That's only part of it. We need to come together and synthesize a new offering to move forward, a new village. That's how I see it anyway.
Wow, I just love exactly how you just framed all of that. And that's exactly what we envisioned for this portal, is exactly that. And so absolutely couldn't have said it better. Like, really appreciate the way you've just shared that. Yeah, it's okay. So we now have the one piece of the portal, which is the seal of integrity, which is going to hold the people accountable and integral, and as we like to say, humbly walking behind the medicine and not egoically in front of the medicine.
Got to get out of the way.
Huh?
You have to get out of the way of the medicine. You've heard that term before?
Yeah,
you got to get out of the way.
You got to get out of the way. And, the second cornerstone of the portal is our integration space, which we're calling the virtual fire.
Mm.
Virtual fire, as we both know in these medicine spaces, that's where the healing is happening. It's around the fire. So let's have a virtual fire in this village that's always burning, that's always welcoming medicine brothers and sisters to gather and share their experiences, but then also too inviting into that space vetted psychedelic and plant medicine integrators as part of the conversation. And that'll be a gathering that happens on the new moon and full moon of each month, to really, as you say, like, now that we've come out of the experience and we're not in a village, in the jungle, let's pull everybody back into our village here in the portal. And let's bring everybody back so that we can be seen and be heard and be nourished and have the tools and resources within that space, that if somebody really needs some integration right now, that we have the people on staff that can help them to process these experiences. And then also too, like, using the virtual fire as not only just a space where we're coming to gather to share these experiences, but really turn it into a classroom. Like, it's our classroom twice a month, where it's like, let's talk about the things that really need to be shared in this space right now, which is one thing that I feel is like a big gap, if you want to put it that way, is like, what does pre-ceremonial preparation look like? Because my experience is, I'm just, like, I see an email and then I wait for another email, because I don't receive anything in between that of like, here's some things that you can do to start really getting prepared for ceremony. And it's my belief that the ceremony starts when I am thinking about praying with the medicine, not when I receive an email telling me somebody's coming. Like,
Yeah.
that's when my preparation should start. And that could be 2 months, 3 months out from when I would even receive something. And what does that even look like? And so it's talking about,
That's the best. That's the best most of us get sometime. An email with like this paltry, trite list of, oh, try these practices, look at these videos, read these books. And not like, let's get on a call, meet your facilitator, meet the people who you're going to be sitting with, get to know them, get a feel for the energy you're about to be like consumed in and with. Learn a bit about transference and countertransference and how to navigate, maybe a bit of skill development. And the same thing on the other end. It's usually just an email after that grounding circle.
Yeah.
An email with similar things, links, just like they're bypassing largely doing the true work of community building.
I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize is that the medicine opens the window, and it is a tool that is being used as a crutch for a lot of people. Let the medicine be the tool that opens the window to this other realm, and then let's use the integration, which is the real work. And that the medicine is not the solution. That, oh, if I just do this and I just keep doing this, that's the solution. No, that is what
it's like some say the medicine takes care of you, which isn't true. People take care of you. Those that say the medicine will take care of you, I say it's a red flag. Run the other way.
Yeah. Or if they say they're a shaman, for sure, like, run as fast as you can in the other direction. So yeah, like,
I mean, unless they're indigenous, they can be shaman if they're indigenous, but you'd be hard pressed to find a Westerner or like a white embodied person that's truly a shaman.
Yeah. and that they're like 80 years old. They've been, like walking for decades with, I mean, now you can go on Facebook and become a shaman in 3 weeks,
That's repulsive.
yeah, I know. It's not absolutely repulsive. So yeah, so with those two cornerstones of, having the seal and having the integration group, we feel like we're going to really build something that is just so desperately needed in this space right now. Not only for myself, but for most of the people that I talk to in this space too. Let's come together as a village, and let's embody all of that cultural things that they've been doing. And yeah.
Let's sit around the fire and let's share our stories. And it's like, it's the storytelling part that is most important. You know, it's funny, David. I have heard for years and believed in the beginning that it wasn't helpful to go into story. And I thought about that for a while because you hear this often in circles. Oh, don't go into the story, get to the nugget. And I'm realizing, okay, what they're really trying to say is drop in, tell us how you're feeling, what was meaningful. That's important. I also feel like it's this Western sort of need to move, to go forward, to be fast, that doesn't want to sit and be patient and truly listen to the story. And what is it we do around a fire? We tell stories. We share stories. We've lost our way of storytelling. And I feel like this is really at the crux of what we need to share what's going on, because being so separated and divided from nature, spirit, and medicines for so long, once we begin to commune with them again, we have a lot to share. And I find that those who are beginning to work with these medicines, these aspirants for personal growth and development, it's hard. They're hard pressed to find places where they don't feel like they need to just get as much out as possible in a few minutes before someone rings a bell or hits a bowl and tells them to move on.
That's so interesting, because I was literally just going to say that. Like, we come out of that experience, right? And we're sitting in that circle, the 1 hour circle, and we're holding the rattle, or the stick or whatever it is that's getting passed around. And you have a story to tell. And you can feel these piercing eyes on you, right? When that story starts to drag, go on, and as it's building its momentum, and it's like, okay, we only have an hour. We've got to hurry up, and we have all these other people that have something to share. And it's like, how many times are we being cut off when maybe the nugget, or maybe the part that's going to really be what needs to come out, that we need to hear, is going to flow after that time of us being cut off. And, because, it's time is of the essence, after that ceremony. And so, like, I so resonate with you, and getting back to this storytelling and feeling safe, that you can just go until you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in the circle after the ceremony, let's just call it the closing circle, because it's not integration circle. It can be hard to fully articulate thoughts. And that's why it's very important for the person facilitating the circle to have a really good acumen around some form of coaching or some form of mythopoetic lens, to lean in and really fully hear with their full body listening what's going on, and ask really helpful questions to guide them to what is happening underneath the words. And beyond that, it's the community that's going to hold regular space, every week, every other week, to allow for the continued sharing of that story, because it is only starting in the closing circle.
Yeah.
One thing I want to come back around to, you mentioned with the seal of integrity, and I just love that. It's like the seal of integrity has been around forever. We know what it means. And integrity really is the name of the game right now. You didn't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You mentioned 7 core competencies, like areas of competency, and about 40 checks and balances. Can you speak to like what these areas are, and maybe just name some of the most important, in your opinion, of these checks that you have in place to vet people and to keep them accountable?
Yeah. So what I would say is that it's like the quality, like one of them is like one of the 7 areas is the quality and the safety requirements. Like, how do you ensure that like what you're doing is of the highest integrity and safety for the people that are participating?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you stay connected to others, avoiding, that are offering like similar offerings, to ensure that you are collaborating for the improved quality and safety of this of the space? Um, like one of the things is customer prioritization requirements. Like, how do you ensure a fulfilling experience through the delivery of like what you're putting out there? Like, what guidelines and agreements ensure the safety of the container and the experiences that you're offering as a facilitator?
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Something else is like, where we're talking about integrity. Um, how do you support personal development for a culture of inclusion, diversity, innovation, adaptability, and growth for everybody? How do you support, if you're a retreat center, how do you support team development for your employees there? How do you ensure that the products and the affiliates that we're recommending outside of our direct offerings are safe? Like, another one is that uh, if you are a retreat center, like if you're selected for a random site visit, that's something I'll talk about too. Like, are you prepared to provide proof to verify any of the things that you said to us in this vetting process? Um, like that's something definitely that we would, you know, that's something definitely like that we're going to do. So when I was in the restaurant business for 4 decades, working in fine dining, we had this thing called a secret shopper program.
Mm-hmm.
And the secret shopper program was somebody was coming to this restaurant unannounced. And from the minute they walked into the door, were they greeted by the host or hostess in an ample amount of time? If their reservation wasn't ready, were they escorted to the bar? And when they got up to the bar, did the bartender greet them within a certain time frame and acknowledge them by their name, which was on the
Mm-hmm.
reservation? And then once they got to their table, how soon did a server show up? How quickly did their drinks arrive? How quickly did their food arrive? What was the quality of all of that experience? And it was like 200 questions that these secret shoppers would come in and fill out. And then we would get a report from corporate. And if that score was anything below like a 95, then it was meetings with management. This is what we need to do. This is what needs to be taken care of. And so we want to also create that sort of thing in our vetting process with the seal of integrity, which is, we are going to show up. We're going to show up at a retreat center. We're going to show up uh, in a ceremony, and you're not going to know that we're there, just kind of seeing the flow and seeing the things. Because as we build trust in this village, it's very important that we have unbiased feedback from people that are praying in these ceremonies, so that we can keep this village in integrity and in accountability, and that everybody that's coming on board in this vetting process, that they are open to that yes, I want to, we can't control anything outside of this portal and outside of this community and this village that we're going to build. We can't, we don't have any control of that. but we will have control of what we are creating. And if you want to be a part of this, you've got to agree to that, hey, you know what? Somebody's going to show up at some point and in some time. So just always just be in integrity and humbly walk behind these medicines and just do the work that you've been doing, so that we can keep you as a part of this village. And if something isn't in alignment, that one, you're open to the feedback from that. And two, that you're open and willing to, if there was a misstep, like, let's all come together as the village. Let's talk about it. Be humble enough to receive that feedback, and also humble enough to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, that was a blind spot for me there. And I want to be a part of this. So I'm open to receiving the feedback from the councils.
So what I'm hearing is, in this list of checks and balances and these core competencies, this is something that's made public to anyone who wants to join the plant medicine portal community. And so if they like what they see there, if they agree that that creates safety and integrity, they opt into your community. And people from your community will visit particular retreat centers, and based upon how these people show up in their version of providing a service, which is not unlike hospitality in many ways, you will be able to offer the plant medicine portal community's take on whether or not they're meeting these needs for integrity and safety. And therefore, your community members can choose what feels good for them. They can choose with discernment and authority and information that you have gathered based upon what everyone there in the community agrees feels good. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as I said early on in our talk, what we are building in this village is trust. When somebody comes to the plant medicine portal, they've got to know, and they've got to feel these people have done their homework. They have vetted these people that I'm talking to. They have vetted these facilitators that I may choose to pray with the medicine with. They have vetted these retreat centers that if I'm going there, that I'm going to feel safe and nourished before, during, after. That they're going to receive all of that, and that's why they're in our village.
This is reminding me of this ongoing contemplation I've been having around the simple concept of a retreat center vis-a-vis people who are doing their work locally in maybe someone's home or maybe a temple space, but they're regularly gathering, let's just say, the same core contingent of people, right? And it's not like this big public thing. They're not trying to reach out to all corners of the planet to bring in relative strangers.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel that there's an overreaching, a going too far, going too fast with the great vast amount of retreat centers out there. Because if I think about what makes medicine work in this village dynamic, most retreat centers aren't offering that.
Yeah.
And I feel like they really can't, because if you're trying to maintain this massive, glorious, abundant space and all the costs that come with that, and trying to serve people often enough from all different corners of the world who, they're not even in their own villages. You're trying to make a microcosm of a village in 3-4 days, maybe a week. It feels impossible to me. It feels like such a tall task. And to try to literally capitalize on this opportunity in such a way seems to me to smack of this Western mindset again of like, let's move forward. Let's go as fast as we can, serve as many people as possible, and let's make a business out of it first and foremost. I think if you put that business part first, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And, I know that you know this, that really what we're trying to attract to our village is the facilitators that are doing it for all the right reasons, and the spaces that are doing it for all the right reasons. And that if 2 people showed up, they would receive the exact same experience as if 40 people showed up. That the financial aspect of it isn't the first thing, right? That there is a financial aspect to it, but it doesn't lead the way. It's further down the list of things. Because, and there's no judgment here. This is just my thought process is you have some of these places that are facilitating these massive ceremonies with a lot of people in them. And for 1 or 2 people to hold that kind of space, like what experience are you actually really getting? Is it a safe and nourishing space? One of the medicines I pray with, Yahe, which is the Colombian.
Yeah, I've heard.
So, that's the medicine that I've sat with the most, of that, of that style. The guy who I pray with has 10 to 12 people in the ceremony. Like that's
guardians.
Like that's his container. It's like, I want to, he wants to be able to drop in with each person throughout the evening and really tap in with them and really, nourish them, as opposed to a few people sitting up front with 50 people around them, just letting people go and spin out. And then, oh yeah, okay, that guy over there is spinning out. Let me now go and address that, as opposed to it doesn't have to get to that point, right? Where I'm not going there because, they're not spinning out, but, or whatever. So it's like really too wanting to work with some of these more humble, for lack of a better term, like maybe more humble spaces and more humble facilitators where they're walking the path with the medicine leading it and the financial aspect being there, but it's not, let me tell you something. If you're going to a ceremony and they're talking about the next ceremony while you're still in ceremony, that is financial. That is 100% a financial lead and a serious red flag. And so, like, that's not what we are going to have in this community.
Yeah. And I'm glad you presence this idea of helpers, guardians. And as a side note, if y'all haven't listened to the Emerald podcast recent show on guardianship, check that out, because that is what we as Westerners need more than anything in these spaces, because we have a lot of shit coming up, and it's going to be more when you're surrounded by people you don't know. And so unless you've got a space where the facilitator has, several guardians around them, so they can focus on like manning the spaceship and the guardians can tend to you, you might want to be a little more curious about what could be safer. This reminds me of my time in the Amazon with the Hunikun, which was complete life-changing experience. And like you said about yours, wouldn't change it because it taught you what you needed to know to be here. Same for me. The experience I had there is the reason why I lead my work with the ethic of integrity and ahimsa, which means do no harm. Each of those ceremonies, there's at least 12 of them in a 14-day period. And in between all the formal ones or informal ceremonies where there's a slinging like watered down shots and soul alegria, 200 people per ceremony. Longhouse Maloka, 100 indigenous Hunikun on one side, 100 people from all over the world on the other side. No preparation besides the most basic intake, which didn't even ask about contraindications, didn't ask about our history with trauma, didn't even ask about what our intention was. And maybe 6 pages running around blowing smoke. It was mayhem. Now, somehow, and I feel there's good reason for this, but somehow during the experience, people were taken care of. Now, I think that had a lot to do with the power of the land. We're in the home of ayahuasca. Environment and setting is huge. So we're incredibly supported by the spirit and the purity of the land and community. We were living together in that space with them for a good 2 weeks. And so I believe that's how a lot of what was coming up was navigated, because we were very held there. But afterwards, I went down for like 3 years. Depression, anxiety, near suicidality. I think I was lucky because I had a mentor who guided me through it. But every person that I meet throughout my life who I had been in that space with, and they're showing up, our orbits are coming back. They've got a similar story. They're like, shit, man, that was something. I'm still putting some pieces back together.
Yeah.
And I get it. Transformation and entirely reconfiguring our lives and becoming a new person is a lot of work, but it doesn't need to be life-threatening.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm glad you made it out on the other side, and you're you're where you're at, and the beautiful work that you're doing, and the interesting story that you and I met at the MAPS conference for like in person. So it was
That's
really
right.
it was really good to connect with you there, and I've kind of what kind of I feel like spurred our talk today is as I've been behind the scenes now for a year and a half building this portal out, and I'm doing it myself, as far as the website and that sort of thing, with a community of people that I'm starting in the village, I'm starting to build around it. Just noticing the incredible videos that you were putting out right now that was just so in alignment with what we're creating. And so I just want to thank you too for the work that you're doing, and what you're putting out there right now, and the awareness to the integrity and accountability as well. Like it's no coincidence that we're having this conversation, and it's we're excited to have you involved with the portal, and it's just it's a beautiful thing, man. And that's what's so great about this project is I'm really excited when this thing finally launches and people come to it, because when they see the team of people on the councils and the people that have agreed to go on this journey, it's such a beautiful group of people with lots of experience, and just really humbly being in this space, and that those people are out there, and those experiences and that nourishment is out there, and we're going to bring it together in this village. So thank you for the work you're doing too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for seeing that. And I got to say that, I had that experience in 2017. And I mentioned that because now it's 2024, some 7 or so years later. And me coming out and sharing is indicative of me finally finding my voice again after that experience. Because I went down and there was a lot to learn and to sit with and to be with, a lot of shadow work. And I'm finally sharing, got my voice back, and I'm figuring out what my message is. I'm trying a lot of things out. It's a lot of work to be brave enough to share our stories and to share what hurt, and to be unattached to how it lands and to what the responses are. But one thing I'm noticing, even though it feels a little messy and wild, I'm not really sure where it's going, I am not feeling afraid of standing up and backing up what I've said. There's something that has alchemized and really solidified within me as my truth of what happened. And, there's probably still some wounding there. Right. For years, as I was walking this path of integrity and harm reduction with the medicine, I was like a finger wagger. I'm like, you're not safe, and you need to fix this and that, and what the hell is going on here? And I was projecting everything that I imagined was common sense from what I experienced, and was not allowing space for others to not know and to be innocently ignorant. And so I wasn't coming with a, hey, I've got something to share with you. Like, come close, let's talk. I was pushing away the people that I could have been helping. And so I was walking a path of rightness instead of righteousness. And I have this keen awareness about the two now. And I'm being really careful and aware of how I'm sharing, and still noticing that fire of that wounding sometimes. And there's some atonement that's going on in the backgrounds for ways I've showed up to people in the space. And, I understand that when there's something that we're so committed to and devoted to, there's a passion there, and a passion is a fire. And like, there is a place for this righteous anger, but it's how we use it. It's a tool, just like these plants and these medicines. And that's what I'm a commitment to making things right for those that I've wounded and attacked in the past, and to carry this fire to burn away all that doesn't serve, and to build something up stronger and better in its place with love.
Yeah.
With love.
Always.
Yeah.
I was going to say what is really like lighting my fire right now, hearing that story about you, is that, when you came out of that, 7 years ago, right? Like, what was even in place for you, right? What was even in place for you to even handle that experience? And so now, 7 years later, with the portal coming out, it's like, hey, you know what? Let's take some trips down to some of these places, connect in, and offer that when they leave that space and come back here, to not have to have an experience like you had, which is like, where do I even turn right now? Right? Like, something birthing that is a space where they can come to join a village and be a part of, so that they're not having to feel like they don't have to do this on their own, that they have support here. And so that's definitely something that we're going to do, which is reach out to some of these retreat centers to where maybe they only provide 3 months worth of integration. Okay, well, let the portal be, let the portal start on day 91 for these people. Like, let's keep that integration going, because as you know, I mean, I'm still like integrating an experience from 2015. It's like it's not like, oh, 3 months, let's put the top on the package and wrap the bow and like move on. Like, that's not how it's working. Like, it's can be a continual process for somebody, and let us provide the nourishing space for you to continue that journey of integration.
And that's just it too, because the integration, the meaning making, the embodiment of the lessons through practice in community and conversation and storytelling is a whole different area of competency and skill that is still pretty nascent and developing. Because at first, when we realized what these medicines could do, well, that was the focus. Let's do the medicine. Let's find out who's serving it. Let's have that experience. And again, the Western mindset, they think that's the thing, but that's just the beginning. The easy part is to drink the ayahuasca. The easy part is to take the pill of MDMA. The easy part is to put back this dry pile of peyote. That's the easy part, man. And it should be easy.
I don't know about that. Let me tell you what, I did not to interrupt you, but like I did I sat with about a year ago, the Marikame from Weechal came into North Carolina, and it was a peyote ceremony. There was about 50 people in this outdoor, in the woods, beautiful space. And it was my first experience with peyote. It was started with the buttons, then it went to the powder, and then it went to a tea. one right after the other, round,
Oof.
3 rounds. And then when the Murakami came, it was just powder. And let me tell you what, trying to get that powder down, holy smokes, man! Yeah, my time with peyote is done. Like that
Ah,
was, yeah, there was nothing easy about trying to get that down.
and even as challenging as that is, and I do know it is challenging, it's still not as hard as the work that is to
Yeah,
follow.
100%.
And so I love where your head's at, and I'm seeing more of this out there. Thank goodness. It gives me so much hope that, yes, let's create the offering. We've got a team of coaches. We have this experience and background. Here is our list of agreements and what we hold ourselves accountable to. Here are the people we've worked with. Like, again, building that trust. Let's try this on. Let us help you with the thing that we're good at so you can do what you're good at. And then through that, we create stronger networks. We create more communities and we complete the process that is just beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Well, David, before we close things up, I'd like to ask you if you have any parting words for people out there on the path who are considering to begin their work with plant medicines or psychedelics, and maybe you've got a couple key pointers or top tips you want to leave them with so they can start walking in a good way.
Yeah.
What would your parting words be for people out there?
One, connect with Kyle for sure.
Thanks.
100%. Just so much wisdom coming through this call. So 100% connect with him, especially if you're going to work with any medicines that he is that he is a part of. Could not recommend that highly enough. Two, and I think this is a really big one, and you brought it up early in the conversation, which is get to know the facilitator. Like, do not blindly walk in and accept medicine from anybody that is serving it. Like there are certain questions that should be asked. Like how long have they been facilitating? How many ceremonies have they done? Where is the medicine coming from? Where did they get their teaching? And how long does that process even look like? If the shit hits the fan in ceremony, what are your protocols? Like there's so many like really great questions that we should be asking of the person that is going to be facilitating this medicine instead of being on a list and blindly saying yes and not knowing anything about the person that you're getting ready to receive this from. That would have definitely saved me again from probably a couple of ceremonies, but that was the that was the work I did for you guys to create to create the portal. I went through, I got dragged through the mud and didn't get supported, and as a result of that, the portal is what's being built to honor that and to have a space where you don't have to go through the rough challenges that we go through, right? Like we're giving you the cliff notes of
Yeah.
the experience.
That's the point. It gets to be easier for those following us.
Yeah.
And so to wrap that up, be really curious, ask lots of questions, also speak to people who've been through it,
Yeah.
speak to myself, reach out to David, find an integration coach, find someone you trust that you can pick their brain about and like, hey, what do you think about this guy? Anything missing here? One thing I'll add is to go slowly. And this reminds me of the conference we met at. There was a talk between Bob Jesse and Michael Pollan. And Bob Jesse just kept saying, temperance, people. We need to slow things down. I know it's exciting. The pretty lights are very amazing. And there's a lot of healing to do. And I get it's urgent. It feels urgent. Like the world is literally on fire and falling apart around us. So you can't rush your healing. One thing my teacher always says, We got to move at the pace of enjoyment, like nature. And so with that, thank you, David. Really appreciate you showing up and sharing about this offering, this community, the Plant Medicine Portal. It's so necessary right now. And I look forward to being a part of this community, to supporting in this great vision, which is very much in part my own vision as well. And to all you watching out there, peace and blessings on your path. Until next time.
January 1st launch.
Right on. January 1st, plantmedicineportal.com.
Plantmedicineportal.com.
See you on January 1st.